2026. I know it's still kind of weird to say it, but as we head into the new year, I know something all parents and kids are thinking, how do we get better this year? Well, more ice time sounds great, but between school, family time, and just being a kid, it's not always realistic, right? So, what really helps young players grow is hockey IQ, learning how to read the game, make confident decisions, and understand why things happen on the ice. And that's where our title sponsor, NHL Scamurra, continues to come through. Scamurra uses VR and mixed reality training to help players work on the mental side of hockey. It gives kids meaningful reps, helping them build confidence, awareness, and strong habits at their own pace. So for skaters, that means better reads and puck control, and for goalies, faster reactions and improved tracking. And for coaches and parents, it means purposeful development that supports what's being taught at the rink. So to get started with our special offer, visit Scamurra.com/OKPH and use the code OKPH to save an extra $25 off an annual plan or headset bundle if you need one. Once again, that's Scamurra.com/OKPH. Use the code OKPH. Get yourself that discount. That's 50% off the standard monthly cost, plus an additional $25 when you use the code OKPH. Welcome to 2026. Let's get you into this episode right now. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another episode of Our Girls Play Hockey. I'm Elias, joined by Hayley Scamurra, and today we're welcoming back a friend of the show, Bob Apter, president of the Northern Illinois Hockey League, the NIHL. When Bob joined us in June of 2024, the NIHL was already the largest youth hockey league in the Midwest. It's a good league to talk about when we're discussing ideas. And this season, speaking of ideas, they're making history again, expanding to one of the nation's largest girls travel hockey league with 75 teams across 5 states. That is a massive league. The NIHL's legacy, of players includes alumni like some names you know, Cami Granato, Kendall Coyne-Schofeld, and Abby Murphy, just to name a few. There's many of them, all of whom have helped shape women's hockey at the highest levels. With the NIHL's new focus on growing the girls' game, thousands of players across the Midwest, are getting new opportunities to compete, develop, and fall in love with the sport of hockey. Today, we're going to explore what's driving this growth, how the NIHL built one of the largest girls' leagues in North America, and what lessons we can all take away from their approach. Bob, welcome to Our Girls Play Hockey. It's good to have you back.
It's good to be on.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you. So listen, that was pretty epic intro. When we made Our Girls Play Hockey, we've seen it all. There are some states that have a team or two. There's some leagues that have, 10, 15, 20 teams. You've gone all the way. What inspired the NIHL to go all in on girls hockey? And let me ask you this. What challenges are you trying to solve? And how do you define success with this as it grows?
Those are good questions. So I guess I'll start with the beginning. We had a girls director about 20 years ago who's still with us. Ruben Medina is his name. And his daughter played. And there was no leagues around the Midwest at all back then. All the girls just played boys. So there was one little core group of, I guess you'd call them tier 3 house, which doesn't exist for girls anymore. But they played in a little local league. And we decided that we would start a girls session. So we got the teams together. We already had several boys teams. And a division, if we couldn't field 5 teams in a division, the division didn't go. So it was a struggle the first several years. So we started branching out. Girls grew a little bit in Illinois. It got bigger. Indiana, some of the Wisconsin states saw that we had a league where they could compete. So they started joining. We then decided about 10 years later that we could expand it because in truth and honesty, the Illinois governing body, except for the girls committee, really doesn't care about girls hockey near as much as they should. So they pay no attention to it. So we decided that the best way to do it is follow our league model, competitive games, keep people playing and make people happy. So we decided to set up different levels at each age group. So 10U would have an upper and a lower, 12U would have an upper and a lower. You would play fewer teams in the course of your season, but every game, the goal would be to have it a 1 or 2 goal game. So as that progressed, teams from now Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, several in St. Louis, all decided that they don't have any competitive games. They're always traveling and doing showcases to find games and tournaments, and they can never find one. They get put in a tournament, and then they find out that they win every game by 7, 8 goals, or they lose every game, and it was a waste of time and money. So we started to get them calling, and what we did back then is we would set up a game. So when originally Quad Cities called, we set up games. They told us about how good they were. We knew from the boys level about how competitive it would be with the team. We set them up to play a couple games with girls teams that we thought would be parity for them in our league. And then they liked the experience. The games were close, so the next year they joined. As more and more grew, we now have 3 levels at most age levels. So we have, we're going to have to rename them because you started calling them National and American just because we didn't have names for them. And National has gotten very confusing with the national tournament. So now we're going to have a naming contest at the end of the year with the girls clubs to rename the leagues. So the top level has much more confined and a shorter number of teams. We try and keep that between 6 and 8 teams, so every game's competitive. Plus, if you want to get an at-large bid for girls nationals, you need to prove that you played a tough schedule. So if we let weaker teams in at that level, then they don't get the strength of points they need to go to regionals. So teams wouldn't enter at the high level because they wanted that. Once we started doing that 2 years ago, teams from everywhere came. We have teams from Fox Motors, AAA in Michigan is in that league. Badger City out of Wisconsin is in that level. The Illinois teams all came back, and that league is great. We keep it at 6 or 8. We actually have several girls from the Little Caesars League calling now about next year. So once we got that, we then started having at the lower level, we had between 14 and 17 teams in most age groups, except for 10-year-olds. So we decided that the goal is still to keep the games competitive. So we decided to break it into 2 tiers. So lower levels broken into 2 tiers, tier 1 and tier 2. After they play 6 or 8 games, then we decide where to move them. And this year, actually, we did move one of the teams from the American level at 14U into the national level because they were blowing everybody out and it was more competitive. So that we just did that last week. And so the new schedules will come out by Thursday this week. So the more competitive nature you get, the more teams are coming from other states. So now we had a meeting last night as we did the rescheduling, and our girls coordinator, Ruben, he has now set up at least, I will call them showcase weekends now, where teams that are interested in joining the league next year, they tell us who they've played and where they think they fit. And we call our teams and we say, hey, this is the weekend they want to travel to Illinois. How many of you can play them? And it's not just at the top level. We actually have a showcase at the 14U level, at the 3rd level from a team from Iowa that is just starting out, and they consider themselves very low end, and they wanted to see how they would compete against our lower end because they can't get games in their area unless they want to play a boys team. So that's how it's morphed into 75, which based on phone calls and stuff, I would assume it'll be well over 100 within 2 years.
Wow. That is a crazy amount of hockey teams and a crazy amount of games and a crazy amount of hockey being played there. It's, congratulations to you and everybody there, sir, because that is an accomplishment.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you're focusing on girls hockey now, because I'm sure Hayley has a question or two, because it's an avenue that needs to grow. We're going to dive into that too. We were talking on the pre-show about the PWHL expanding and why this is necessary. So go ahead, Hayley.
Yeah, so I mean, it just sounds like how did you manage all the logistics of creating all of these like teams and the divisions and the scheduling and the travel and also keeping that experience affordable for like the family?
Well, we have an infrastructure set in place from the boys that we just put into the girls. And basically, when teams come from the out of state, they have to, it's called the Peoria Rule. And either they have to play their home games in the rink of the Illinois team, which the Illinois team will then pay for all the ice and the refs, so it cuts the travel cost down. Or the Illinois team will travel and play all their games there, but the Illinois team has their choice. So
Mhm.
the plus for the Illinois team was they didn't have to do the travel if they didn't want to. Like a lot of them go to St. Louis now because we have 3 teams from the area, so they'll play them all. But in the beginning, when we didn't, they would Peoria rule them, and they would play all their games at home. And the cost for the travel team from like Michigan or Iowa that would come, they still had to pay for hotels like they were going to a tournament, but the games essentially were free. So that cut their cost of what they were originally doing significantly. So it kind of was a win-win for both. But now the more we expand with Fox Motors, and now Grand Rapids has been talking to us, if we get 2 or 3 in that area, then I'm sure the teams will travel there and the Peoria rule will go away at that level.
Makes sense. Yeah, that sounds like makes a lot of sense. So then, how do you do how do you raise the standards for girls coaches? I find that that's kind of like a tough avenue that people face in terms of like the coaching level for girls hockey. Is there training, mentorship, certification so that these players are getting good coaching?
Well, they go through the same process as the boys in Illinois. I'm not sure about other states,
Mhm.
but the most clubs as they've grown with their girls portion have instituted a separate hockey director like they do with the boys for girls, and he supersedes or oversees all the girls coaches. I mean, there are still some clubs that have mom and dad just like the boys do, and there are some that have hired coaches, and the ones that have hired coaches tend to go on better. I mean, I like to say
Mhm.
there are dad coaches and there are coaches that are dads, right? Because like I coached 18U hockey long before I had kids. And then I had kids and I quit to coach them. So that's, I wouldn't consider that a dad coach. But I'm say the girls more and more started with dad coach. And now I think it's morphed into coaches separate from dads, and even coaches that are dads are not dad coaches.
It's an interesting place to explore because as the need grows, the education will expand too. We were talking in the pre-show a little bit about, Hayley's in the PWHL and she's on Team USA, and when women's hockey is growing, the PWHL just expanded. So there's going to be a need for more girls programs as the game expands, and one feeds each other. In the intro, we mentioned some pretty powerful names. Cameron
Yeah,
Granado. I mean, Kendall Coyne-Schofeld. I mean, these are big names in their alumnus of the league, right? Of the area.
yeah.
How do you plan to use those for alumni engagement? Are you looking to do college partnerships, or even anything up to the PWHL level as it continues to grow?
It's funny you say all that. Well, for starters, if you go on our website, we've actually, one of the reasons we have a PR firm is to connect with people that have played in the league, right? So it started with Tage Thompson. He played in the league. He did a tutorial. He's on our website, a whole thing. Then, as we got a few of the boys, we morphed into the girls. And Cameron Granado actually has an excellent testimonial about girls hockey growing up on our website. And then Abby Murphy just did one. And I don't remember how many there are, but there's 4 or 5 now girl testimonials about how growing up in NIHL helped shape them. The second thing is the PWHL. I have reached out to we have a sponsorship, the whole league with the Blackhawks. We've had it for years. So it originally started with Annie Cammons, who's now working with the PHL. She was our liaison that got us, we had a deal with the Wolves for 20 some years. She got us over after we ended up breaking that deal because of logistics on both sides. It was mutual. We still do stuff with the Wolves. Everything is great, but we we do stuff with them. So Annie Cannon is now with the PHL. I made contact with her right after I started remission. We are actually working on a few things. And I have talked to a few others that are working on stuff with the PWHL. I'm not at liberty to say right now, but I
Yeah.
can say by December, our girls will have something to do with a PHL game.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Haley, I do want to ask, I'm going to jump in real quick with one question for you. So
Mhm,
you're a PWHL athlete, right? So
mhm.
look, the women's professional, women's Olympic level ability to give back is so well known. I mean, every person I've ever spoken to at your level is so dedicated to giving back. But in this kind of conversation, you're hearing about the size of these leagues. I'm interested as a professional hockey player, does how this inspires you or what this makes you think about beyond just playing, right? Because the need to do these things is expanding from your end too, right? So what are your thoughts on just the expansion of a league like this and seeing that, you're hearing 75 teams. I mean, that's 20 years ago unheard of, 10 years ago unheard of, right? Pretty
So
cool.
true. It's incredible to hear, and I think it just shows how important like our league and the national teams and the rivalry series games, like all of these have been
Yeah,
in developing the grassroots level. Because now more girls want to play hockey, and I think it all starts with having a great foundation that girls want to play in the league. Because trust me, there's they're looking for reasons to maybe not play. Like,
right.
and if you have like that good foundation for them to play in, where they feel safe, where it's affordable, where it's fun, all those things play into it that allows them to want to continue playing to the next level, to AAA, to NCAA, to national programs. So the work you're doing is incredibly important, and it's incredible to see that there's that many teams involved. Like the difference is not even describable. Like I can't even imagine that when I was younger. Like there
Yeah,
was never that many
Right.
teams.
you
Right.
know,
I mean, with in the testimonial with Cammy, I remember mentioning on there how she couldn't even play on a girls' team because there wasn't numbers. So she
right.
played on a
Yeah,
boys' team at Sabres all growing up.
Yeah,
yeah.
well, and Cammie's always I always love talking about her because she was really the first female hockey player that I ever really saw in 1998 in the Olympics,
Hmm.
and really inspired an entire generation of female hockey players. The other thing too, just when we think about this, and again, I did say pro. Haley, you said it correctly. Like the NCAA, ACHA, like these teams all
Hmm.
play into this as well. You're going to see the expansion, and what's cool for the audience listening, we're talking about these girls leagues. 5 years, 10 years. I mean, you can look at it really short term. I mean, it's a massive influx of players into the
Hmm.
system, right? And it just shows that the and I like to say this, that the growth of women's hockey. I mean, you could actually say this about women's sports right now. It's not like a flash in the pan thing. Like
Hmm.
this is really happening really
Yep.
fast. I think in the past you could see the rumblings, like the early rumblings of that, but this is real, and it's so cool
Hmm.
to see. Not and then again, we said it's not just for young girls, but young boys too, to see that the game is growing in this way. Anyway, Haley, I know you have another question. I just wanted to ask that because a lot of these conversations are reciprocal. They go both ways, up and down,
Mhm.
and I love seeing them support each other.
Totally. So for families, they have their kids in these travel leagues, but then they're kind of thinking like next steps. There's high school, AAA, NCAA national programs. Does the NIHL like help guide their players to the right opportunities for them without them feeling like overwhelmed about the decisions?
No, we don't. We have not yet gotten involved in those decisions. It is something we talked about. We did start 3 years ago. We've done it with the boys for years. The girls all-star game,
Mhm.
which we reach out to several club hockey teams to come talk to girls at the older level, which they
Mhm.
have. And this year we've actually expanded the All-Star game to include the lower levels. So the lower levels, the American level, will have their own set of All-Star games at 14, 16, and 19. So they will get some exposure because just because your team isn't one of the top doesn't mean there's not a top player on that team.
I got to ask this too now, Haley. How many all-girl all-star games have you seen growing up?
None.
Right.
only
See,
only for the
Well,
boys.
we're
Yep.
hosting
right.
5 this year.
Well, there you see.
Wow.
I'm bringing that up because again, I love our audience, but it's like, oh yeah, an all-star game, and I'm thinking, wait, there's no there. I don't know of any all-girl all-star games,
Right.
and then in a way that probably turns into a little bit of a showcase too, which is
Yes.
really awesome. It's kind of what you're alluding to, Bob. But
And
like
then one
this
other
jaw
thing,
breaking stuff.
not to interrupt you, but one other jaw-breaking idea that we came up with that I'm sure you two are going to love is we decided when the whole thing went down and we're losing the boys, we needed to rebrand a little bit.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, not Northern Illinois has been hockey league's been around 56 years, but people don't think of it as girls. So we came up with Midwest Superior Girls Hockey. It's not a league, as it would say in my hockey rankings. It's not a league. It's still the Northern Illinois Hockey League, but the divisions are now Midwest Superior Girls Hockey.
Yeah.
So we decided that instead of trophies and hats when you win the championship like they give out everywhere, we are now giving out charm bracelets
That's cool.
with the charm for first place and second place in the new created joint logo with NIHL and Midwest Superior Girls Hockey engraved in the back, the year of the level and what place you fell. So we changed the whole trophies and stuff that you give out. So instead of putting it in a drawer and never looking at it again, now if a girl starts at age 10 and she second place, and then by age 12, she's in wins the first place, she could have 6 or 7 charm bracelets that just show Northern Illinois Hockey League and accomplishments, and it might foster into staying in longer and playing longer.
No, I love outside the box thinking, right?
Mhm.
And I think
Thanks.
that with hockey, when things get too formulaic, it's not the best thing in the world. Look, I've said this, but we won't dive into this. The PWHL draft, the way they do the draft with once you're out of the playoffs, I think every league should implement that immediately. Where I've said it before on the show that once you are eliminated, you still accrue points to get the first draft pick. That
Mhm.
made a lot of sense to me. I know I know a lot of sports leagues that probably should jump on that. So any
Yeah.
kind of outside the box thinking, I'm a fan of.
Well, you'll
Um,
speaking of that, you'll like the All-Star game because my overtime in All-Star game is 6-on-6 with no goalies because,
Wow.
but it's not
Okay.
sudden death. It's not, we
Yeah.
play 3 minutes.
Okay.
Because, and it gets pretty crazy. If you watch we tape a lot of our games. So if you watch it, they really tried. The reason I came up with behind this because it's an all-star game. Nobody really wants to see an overtime that much. And you got 3 goalies. So who gets the overtime? Usually it's
Right.
just whoever they put in last, right? So I'm like, well, that's not fair. And then, you play your best, whatever the coach deems is his best 5 or 6. Start with boys, now it's girls. And I'm like, well, this way, if we play 3 minutes, everybody will get a shift. Everybody's on the ice,
Right.
and he doesn't have to choose his goalies. And we had one 2 years ago that went into triple overtime because both overtimes ended 1-1. They were only 3 minutes long,
Yeah.
and every kid got to play, and everybody was loving it. So there's your outside the box thinking.
No,
I'm
that's
always coming
different.
up with crazy ideas.
Now, if they wanted to play a goalie, could they? Or is it they have to do 6
No,
skates?
man, no
There
goal.
you
They're
go.
not allowed to play goal.
I would love to hear. I think some goalies would love that. Some
Yeah.
goalies would be like, I want the net. I
Yeah.
want the
Yeah.
net. That's
That's what it
interesting.
was too.
No, I listen. I love that. I saw my just last story for me. We were at a tournament where it went overtime was 3-on-3. Oh, I'm sorry, it started 4-on-4, 3-on-3. And I saw my first 2-on-2 ever overtime game, which was just madness. Didn't make any sense. I was like, this is not hockey, but it's they have to finish the game somehow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So Bob, here's another question for me. A lot of teams
Yeah.
require a lot of ice time. A lot of ice time might mean that there's less availability to play, right? So how are you making the game more accessible? Is it through cost reduction, shared ice? Do you make partnerships? Like, how does that aspect of this work? Because again, I think we have to reestablish here, not every place in America has as much ice as where you're from or where
Right.
I'm from, right? So this is a real challenge when you got to make it work. How do you make the game more accessible?
Well, for starters, the teams get their own ice in
Right.
Illinois, so we really don't have much to do with it, which is why the concept came of the Peoria Rule to begin with, is so that cities and towns that don't have a lot of ice can always play here, and the cost doesn't drive up for them.
Love that.
As far as the Illinois teams go, I won't say they're used to high cost because I think we should always drive the cost down.
Yeah.
But they
I
are
would agree
used
with
to
that.
higher costs, and we do have sponsorship for several years. It was with the Wolves for the last 5 or 6, and the last 2 years, the Blackhawks, not only did they sponsor us, but they donated the United Center. So of our 6 championship games, one was girls every year. They were at the United Center. They had Gene Honda, the real Blackhawks announcer. He did the speaker. They had the real game day experience, the 3 stars of the game, which we incorporated years ago when we got the Blackhawk deal. The
Right.
same people that do it for the Blackhawks and introduce the 3 stars afterwards and interview them are the same ones that did the boys and girls that did it for us. So that was a real unique experience. I would be willing to bet there isn't another NHL team that hosted 6 local youth championship games.
No,
And
I love it. Yeah. Well, I'm bringing it up too because like we like to look at what you're doing sometimes as a model. Like other people get ideas from these episodes of what's possible,
right.
right? Especially in natural cities. And again, I've been up there recently. The Blackhawks are expanding their practice facility to 2 to 4 rinks, which is going to create
Yes.
even more ice time.
Which is where all our playoffs are going to be this year.
There you go, right? State-of-the-art
Yeah.
training facility up there at the
Yeah.
Fifth Thirds Arena, which is
Yeah.
very close to the United Center.
Yep.
So it's amazing. Like I said, it's amazing what happens when people can really work together here and do it the right way.
Yeah.
That this game can be played, right? There doesn't have to be the limitations we create. Sometimes you just got to think outside the box, or think a little bigger than the microscopic way of doing it. But go ahead,
Right.
Hayley. My bad.
No, I was just going to add that I just love that the girls are getting the same opportunities as the boys. It just shows that they're on the equal playing field. The parity's there. I think that just sends a beautiful message to the boys and girls that are all playing hockey there together in the same program. And I just commend you for that, truly, because it's
Thank you.
not
I
seen
appreciate
across
that.
the country. And, I hear too many stories about girls having to, use dirty jerseys or use old equipment or bad ice times, like just things like that. So to hear that, like, the girls are getting treated like the boys and it's equal, like that's huge.
Well,
So
it's funny you mention that because the very first year we had the championships at the United Center, the boys get like a Stanley Cup trophy for the very top level, right?
mhm,
And NIHL for years ran about 8 different boys levels. And the very top one got the trophy that they got to put in their case. So the very first year we had it at the United Center would sit in the penalty box and the team that won it got to hoist it. And so we noticed that we didn't have one for the girls level
mm,
when we got there. So since then, by year 2, we now got one. So they have the same treatment. And now there are no boys where they have that trophy for all their top levels. So
love
like you
that.
say, we made it so it's
Mhm,
the same.
yep.
So it doesn't matter. Because you know from growing up, even when you're still younger as a girl, there's a lot of boys saying, stay on the boys team at least till 13. Don't
Mhm.
come play on the girls only team. Stay on the boys team. So we want to make it so the experience is the same. So if she wants to go play with her friends, she's not missing out on anything.
Yep. I totally agree with that. It's the social aspect. It's super important
Right.
and something that shouldn't be overlooked. Absolutely. My next question for you was just kind of like what metrics that you look at like throughout the season to then like improve on it next year. Is it retention, participation, like the competitive balance? Like what's like the most important metric that you kind of look at?
The first one is competitive balance. We make sure that we sit in a room like we sat in a room for a long time yesterday. Make sure we're looking at every fact. And if like we have an oddball game where one of our 14-year American won, which is the second level. They've had every game was competitive, and one game they just got absolutely blown out. So I called the hockey director. I'm like, "Can you tell me what happened here?" So, and he's like, well, we were missing 3 girls and we couldn't reschedule the game because there's so many double rostered with other teams. So we kind of threw that game out. So we try and take a look and we take notes and make sure that the competitive balance, what we're doing is right. So we don't, because obviously 75 teams, we're going to make a mistake on 3 or 4 of them while we receive them. But the goal is to make that number as low as possible. So we check every metric we use to make sure that if one is wrong consistently, we're changing it. Because and it's worked. The retention rate of girls in Illinois is very high compared to other states. Whereas the retention rate of boys in Illinois, where they don't have that now with these other leagues in the 22-0 score. I read last week from Topher Scott, something he showed me, that it's actually the lowest of all 50 states at boys. So it's actually almost a full inverse flip
Wow.
to show that competitive balance is an important thing to keep these kids coming back. Is like Lee keeps mentioning the cost. If you're paying 5 or 6 grand a year to play hockey in Illinois, whether you're a boy or a girl, and your moms and dad are looking at it going, geez, you touched the puck 3 times because you lost every game 15-0. I'll find something else to pay that kind of money for.
Mm,
So
yeah.
we want to make it so every experience is good and they want to come back and they don't say, well, I can find other things to do.
Yeah, well, look, I'll say this too. Just talking about it from the business side of hockey, because like I said, we do ourselves no favor if we don't, right?
Right.
This is a good business to be in right now. If you talk about it, this is a growing aspect of the game, right? Probably one of the most rapidly growing aspects of any sport right now would be girls hockey, would be my belief. All right. So for those of you out there that maybe are looking to grow a girls program, I think 10 years ago, possibly a risk. I could see that as a business risk. I'm just being blunt, right? It's not anymore. It's not anymore. Like this is a good place to be. I know my daughter plays in a for a girls team, and they play in two different leagues. One of them is all girls. I mean, it's growing all the time, and there's always people trying to get them out. This is a 10U team I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? So I just think it's important that we share these ideas. We share what you're doing, Bob. We share the aspect of, I should have said NIHL in the open. That would have been a lot easier to say than NIHL 12 times.
No worries.
But I'm going to say it again in closing, man. I commend you what you're doing. I love that you're growing the game. I think that the speed at which girls and women's hockey has grown demands aspects like this and action like this, and you're taking it, man. So I appreciate that.
Right. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah.
I will say, like you said about, the business end of it,
Yeah.
in complete honesty, when we started years ago, if we had 400 teams in NIHL and 30 of them were girls teams, the amount of parental complaints were 10-1 girls parents versus boys parents
Right.
because there were so few. They've like, you need us rather than the league, in order to survive if a bunch of us leave. So nobody wanted to take on starting a girls program because the
Right.
complaint level was so high compared to the boys. But I will say now that there's so many girls teams and it's so competitive, we have an R&E committee for the last whatever years. The amount of girls complaints we get are almost zero.
Yeah. I'll say this too, and Haley, it's your perspective I actually really want on this too. We talked about this a long time ago. We mentioned Cameron Granado and how that Team USA, you saw the NCAA really start to expand after that series in 1998, and with that, obviously some youth organizations, but it wasn't particularly enough. And now you see the PWHL, again, I'm fast forwarding quite a bit, evolving, and you're seeing the girls' game grow. So Haley, the kind of, I guess, reflection I'd love from you is that we keep seeing these trailblazing women and leagues show up, and the game is becoming more and more just readily available to girls, right? I'm wondering if we can project forward 5, 10 years, of what this might look like, and that, look, everybody has their struggle of coming up through the ranks, Haley, in terms of especially girls hockey. But like we're really heading towards a time period where this is normalizing. I mean,
Yeah.
what is that like for you as someone who is at the top?
Oh, it's one of my favorite things to see. And I think the more we expand with like the league and as we go to more of these takeover games, we're exposing different areas that maybe haven't seen women's hockey at that level.
Right.
And once you see it at that level, it changes things. It makes you want to go out and do that sport. Like it's more exciting. Otherwise, like where else are they seeing these games,
Right.
unless like they're being told to watch it on YouTube. But like again, they're not
Yeah.
really exposed to hockey as much, right? So I think it's huge with the takeover games, with us expanding to different locations. And then when we do like on ice clinics with the girls and things like that, and more of those kind of one-on-one, like more attention to detail and things like that. It's massive for the game, and I think it causes more girls to be more excited about the sport and to want to try it for themselves.
Yeah, and I love it, Haley. I'll say in closing too that Bob, I think you might have dropped an idea. A lot of tournaments might be looking for those charm bracelets now instead of trophies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool thinking outside the box. But Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really got to
Yeah, no
dive into
problem.
this. It's always great to share it. And for the audience listening, we're going to put a link in the profile here to let you explore some of the resources, the NIHL League, and everything that Bob told us here today. If you're looking to expand your girls program or just looking for ideas, that's part of the rising tide lifts all ships mentality. Take a look because this league is massive, right?
And if you
Yeah,
if you want to tell them to go on our site and hit the news tab,
yeah,
they'll see the testimonial from Cammie and from Abby, and Molly Schaus is on there too. I was just looking.
awesome. Yeah,
So,
we'll put that in the
yeah.
show notes
Yeah.
for sure. All right, Hayley, anything else before I close this out?
No, just thank you for the work that you're doing for women's hockey in that area. I know Kendall and Abby very well, and they only say the best things about growing up in that area and playing women's hockey there.
Good.
So it's a testament to the program you've built. So
Thanks.
Yeah, I like to say they know
Welcome.
you, Hayley, but I appreciate the way you did that. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Our Girls Play Hockey. Remember, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, email us team@ourkidsplayhockey.com or click the link accompanying this episode in the description. You can text us, leave your name, where you're from, what your question is. We love discussing that on the show. And for all of you who email us, we do get them. We reply to all of them if you're wondering if we do. So keep them coming. But for Hayley, for Bob, I'm Lee. We'll see you on the next Our Girls Play Hockey. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your hockey. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.